Our first reading this morning comes from Isaiah chapter 64, verses 1 through 9. Oh, that you would tear open the heavens and come down, so that the mountains would quake at your presence. As when fire kindles brushwood, and the fire causes water to boil, to make your name known to your adversaries, so that the nations might tremble at your presence. When you did awesome deeds that we did not expect, you came down. The mountains quaked at your presence. From ages past, no one has heard, no ear has perceived, no eye has seen any God besides you, who works for those who wait for him. You meet those who gladly do right, those who remember you and your ways. But you were angry, and we sinned. Because you hid yourself, we transgressed. We have all become like one who is unclean, and all our righteous deeds are like a filthy cloth. We all fade like a leaf, and our iniquities, like the wind, take us away. There is no one who calls on your name or attempts to take hold of you, for you have hidden your face from us and have delivered us into the hand of our iniquity. Yet, O Lord, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you are our potter. We are all the work of your hand. Do not be exceedingly angry, O Lord, and do not remember iniquity forever. Now consider, we are all your people.
Our second reading today comes from the Gospel of Mark. But in those days after that suffering, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. I'm going to take a pause here for a second. I don't know if you could almost feel like that pastor who's ready to start pounding the pulpit, and the stars will, This is like intense, right? Welcome to the new year. The stars are going to fall from the sky, kind of thing. Anyway. Going on, that's not part of the passage, by the way. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. Then he will send out the angels and gather his collect from the four winds, from the ends of the earth to the ends of heaven. From the fig tree learn its lesson. As soon as its branch becomes tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So also when you see these things taking place, you know that he is near at the very gates. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. But about that day or hour no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father. Beware, keep alert, for you do not know when the time will come. It is like a man going on a journey when he leaves home and puts his slaves in charge, each with his work, and commands the doorkeeper to be on watch. Therefore, keep awake, for you do not know when the master of the house will come, in the evening or at midnight or at cockcrow or at dawn, or else he may find you asleep when he comes suddenly. And what I say to you, I say to all, keep awake. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So as we talked about last week, as we were looking at the end of our liturgical year, this Sunday begins the start of our new year, Advent. And when I do the 3-year kind of revised common lectionary, this is year B. So congratulations, we've made it through another year. We are here. And every year at Advent, as we go through, like I mentioned, maybe not a circle, but like a spiral, that we're spiraling. This is the start of our preparation. We're getting ready for what is to come. And there are two words that are working through the service today: anticipation and hope. And throughout the whole Advent season, we'll reflect on one word here at the Advent wreath, as well as we'll think about the word we usually hear and how these two might work together: anticipation and hope. How do we manage these two things? How do these two words act in relationship to each other that help us understand this time of preparation a little bit more? It might perhaps start with a small, unnoticeable scale in the middle of a bedroom, or perhaps in the corner of a bathroom. And in its annual ritual, forlorn for most of the year until January 1. And then that scale gets its renewed attention as its owner finds it, sets it down, and uses it to its best purpose to weigh themselves and say, oh man, now I know what my resolution is. And day after day, that scale is brought back to life. January 2nd, January 3rd, January 7th? Day after day become week, half month. And then it's left to be abandoned again. If you want to know the tragedy of every year, be the life of a bathroom scale. You too will know deep sadness and grief. Or, let's be honest, let's talk about any of the other top 10 New Year's resolutions. I was looking at this this week. Number 1 and number 2 are get fit and lose weight. Number 3 is enjoy life. 4 is something about spending less or saving more. Number 5 is spend time with loved ones. Number 6 is get more organized. Number 7, we'll talk about this later, is the no resolutions crowd. I'm impressed that it made it to number 7. Learn a new hobby or a language is number 8. Travel more is number 9. And number 10 is read more. And maybe you've got a New Year's resolution that you have had that fits somewhere in those. A lot of those I have done in some capacity over the last few years. And I'll repeat them over and over and over again. Because, as you might note, not quite the svelte form I'd like to be. I do wish I read more. I could get myself to the bathroom in a country that predominantly speaks Spanish. So I've still got some work to do in a lot of these. And I'm sure you do too. So why do we continue to do these resolutions? What's the point of them? And I think it's because we live a life that constantly goes from anticipation to hope. Anticipation is this idea of the act of regarding as probable. The Latin root of it is advance action. Ante. For those of you who are like, word nerds, that sort of concept of before, and then couple that with action. So anticipation is this idea of advanced action. And I think if we anticipate something, we have to recognize that there is some kind of future state, right? That there's something after the present. If I'm anticipating through a New Year's resolution, I am anticipating that there is a newer me at some indeterminate time in the future. It's why, for instance, I leave those couple pair of slacks still in my closet. The ones I got for a steal at Banana Republic, the ones I have are these like blue, sort of like houndstooth. They're really nice. And every couple months I stare at them longingly. I think this will be the year I wear them. And I haven't yet. But, I still anticipate that there will be a day that I will put those on. And you better believe that come that Sunday, I'm going to put them on. And y'all are going to know, He's wearing his skinny pants. He got there. But there's an anticipation of a future state that I might lose a few pounds and be able to wear a new set of pants. There's a future state out there. And so what do we do when we anticipate that future state? Any of you who have worked towards a New Year's resolution for any amount of time, even a day, you've done this. You've said, I want to be X person, and so I'm going to take concrete steps towards that person. Anticipation leads us to something. And we all anticipate. You didn't wake up this morning saying, well, whatever happens, I guess. Right? You anticipated that you would be here. You anticipated, those of you up there, that you would be singing or playing. Hey, Charlie. That you would be singing, or in Michael's case, you would be here playing. Amanda anticipated that she would be reading as a worship leader. And so we had concrete steps to get here. So we all anticipate, and sometimes it can be completely neutral. But what is the space that our anticipation lies in at its best? Well, I think our anticipation at its best lies in hope. And hope is the belief that in that future space, good things will happen. Why would I ride my bike like I did yesterday, 15 miles, if I didn't think that there was something good that would come out of it? That sounds like a heck of a lot of work for nothing. Any of you, I know some of you have done races, triathlons, you know that there's a feeling that all of that work that you are working towards, all of that end, will get you to a point that you believe that you will be at a finish line, and you can say all of that work was worth this moment. So any of you who have done an Ironman, which I know I'm around, I imagine when you get to like the 0.8 mile point of your swim, and you're like, what have I done? The thing that might help you get to that next part and get to the bike is anticipation and hope. Hope is the belief that in a future space, good things will happen. It is the reason we get on our scales. It is the reason that we go exercise. It's the reason why we read or spend time with family more. All of those are a recognition of a better future state. I will be a better person. The world will be better. Everything around me will be better if I go this direction. I hope for this. Of course, now this isn't always a given, because there is what I like to think of the anesthetizing allure of inertia. Let me just hit the snooze bar one more time. Well, all of my running clothes are dirty, and I can't get to that stuff 2 or 3 times. There's a bunch of words in this book that I just don't know. COVID, when am I going to travel? The anesthetizing allure of inertia keeps us where we are. Because anticipation involves action towards this future state when we go nowhere, anticipation and hope just stay as comforting abstractions. I still can envision myself in those blue houndstooth checked pants. That feels good with none of the effort. But that means the good thing might not necessarily come about. And too much of this, in my mind, leads to the opposite of hope, which is despair. These, to me, are, for the most part, now there are some folks who are just all too realistic, but I think sometimes those folks who fit that number 7, that no resolution crowd, They've fallen into a light form of despair, right? Well, listen, I could do a resolution, but let's be real, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to do anything. Now, that's kind of a form of despair that we can enjoy in crowds and hang out in bars and joke together about that kind of despair, but at some point it can overwhelm us. We wonder, why even try at all if there's no good outcome to be had? But this interplay of anticipation and hope build upon themselves. Every pound lost, every new sentence learned gets you to where you believe the future state will be. I rode my bike. I've had a chance now twice to get out and ride my bike. Rode 16 miles yesterday. Felt really good about myself. Now, that's not nearly where I used to be. I used to be somebody who competed and did for fun century rides. I used to ride 100 miles in one time. Loved that. 16 was hard yesterday. But I'm going to get there, I hope. I hope. Even in our failures, things can be iterative. It's not taking steps towards what we hope for, or rather, it is about taking the steps towards what we hope for, not what we despair towards. If every step I take leads me to the place where I think there is hope, still I am making progress, even if it means that I am an abject failure at the thing I hoped to do. If I blew a tire yesterday, I'm still heading towards hope. And I think both of the texts show us how these interchange with one another. In Isaiah, you hear the writer of Isaiah say, "You did these amazing things, God, and we responded." You changed things, you lifted mountains, you did all this amazing stuff, and then you got quiet, God. And as an aside, I wish I had 3 weeks just to dig into the consequences of this comment. You got quiet, God, and so then we got caught in our inertia. We started to do the things we shouldn't do. It's a fascinating turn of phrase. God, when you were around, we followed you, we got it. But then when you got quiet, we just we hit the snooze button. But we still believe that you're a God that will show up. You are the Father. We are clay in your hands, O God. We believe you can still form us into something good. Anticipation into hope. In Mark, I think keep awake could be replaced with anticipate as much as anything. But again, what do we do with this anticipation, whether we head towards hope or head towards despair? When the master returns, what will they find? So, what does this mean for us? Anticipation and hope and beginning of the new year, and this dude has tried for years to lose weight. I don't know why he wants to bring that up. I think we can so often in our world live into the early part of the Mark passage. Y'all have it in front of you. But, we hear about these, suffering and sun darkened and moon will not give its light and stars and falling from heaven, like I said, that sort of pound on the pulpit kind of message. And then Jesus says, this is going to happen in this generation. This is going to happen. I think we get caught up in that so often, whether we realize it or not, that this hope that we have is foolish. And why would we believe once again in a God that is coming? Why would we anticipate with hope? When even here, you could easily make the statement to say, well, should have already happened. But as Christians, if there is anything that we are invited to do, it is to be caretakers of a hopeful anticipation because of the back half of this gospel. Because while it should have happened, we don't know. We don't know. But here's what we do know. We are able as Christians to recognize that the world isn't what it should be. I think one of the hardest parts of this year is that we have had to endure right in the middle of our faces a broken world that isn't what it should be. We as humans, whether we try to or not, are more frail than we'd like to realize. That something so microscopic could hinder our entire lives and then by nature set us up against each other. And it's hard when the broken world is presented to us so clearly. How do you not despair in those moments? Well, it's because that we have a belief in how it's going to end. We know that the world isn't what it should be, but we have a hope that Jesus Christ will come again. That's part of what we do this time of year, is we sit in this anticipation that the Christ child that's going to come on Christmas Eve really is going to come. And we can't take out of our mind that the one that's going to come on Christmas Eve will save us as we reflect on Easter. You've seen the story, you've heard the tapes. Yeah, the world isn't what it should be. But we know the end of the story, and we have the skill and perhaps more importantly, the courage to work out anticipation towards hope. We stay awake. We maintain. We steward. We're the folks that say, yeah, this world isn't what it should be. And we are not afraid to say that. But in the same sentence, we're willing to say, and this is what we can do. Anticipation and hope are what carry us when perhaps nothing else does. That there is something better. And we believe in it. And so in our time for the work of the people, we're not going to have anybody come up today, but I invite you in that time to think about what it is that you anticipate. What is that hope that you carry, even if it seems foolish, even if it seems bygone? It is precisely that hope that keeps us moving forward. Hope of a world redeemed. So I invite you, if you've got the card, to write it down. I want to see it. If you're watching this later this afternoon online, I invite you to put a comment on Facebook or send me a message. Email me. And let's celebrate what hopeful anticipation can do. Thanks be to God.